All right, now we're going to turn our attention to cover lines. And cover lines are all of these other lines, all of this text that's in a magazine cover. So if I go back to my ESPN magazine, these are all covered lines. I think I mentioned it in another demonstration, but we're not worried about this barcode. Forget about it. We are worried, though, about excuse me, filling up all of, well, not filling up, but making sure we put cover lines in our magazine. So we've got Aaron Rodgers here in front of in front of the masthead. So what I've done is I've pulled up another sample that I previously did, which was different from this guy right here. For this one, if you remember, I had the picture in the background. I had ESPN logo off to the side here. For this guy, this is the one where I told you that we found a PNG file that had a transparent background. So if you want to know how to do that again, I'll do that on a one-on-one basis. But essentially, I've locked it already. So if I right-click on this and I unlock it here, now I can move this guy around and, make it any way I want. So like that. Once I'm satisfied with where I have them, I lock it, and now I can't accidentally move stuff around. All right, so I've got ESPN logo behind him, the masthead, so that looks pretty sweet. Now, I just called this guy Bill Smith. I'm going to show you how we make this. So text boxes are really easy to make. They're nothing complicated around it. You've done text boxes your whole life probably with computers. So I'm going to move these guys around. The way we make a text box is just come on over here, create a text box. It's got some previews here. I think that I made this one a subheading, and there you go. There's a subheading. And I just moved it around, and I can make it bigger or smaller. What's really cool about this this program, this LucidPress, is I can do this and it automatically shows me in real time what this thing's going to look like. So if I say I want 24, but I say maybe I want it a little bigger, let's go 30. If I want it between there and I go 28, it'll give me 28. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to delete that one. So the way I did this was I just created a different color. I just had track and field's newest star, Bill Smith. I made it bold to give it a little more pop there. I changed the color of it. Now, one of the things when you're changing your colors, let's talk about colors real quick. That is a terrible contrast. Notice it's light. It doesn't look good. It doesn't pop out of the background. When you've got a light background, you need to have dark text. When you have a dark background, like this guy, you want light text. Okay, so nice compare and contrast there. All right, so that's why I went for red color. Okay, whoops. If I select the whole thing, I think I can change color. Yes, I can. Now, one word here, you can change let me get to that in a minute. RGB, red, green, blue. I can change what this is going to look like as far as mixing colors. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows by changing different saturations of red, green, and blue, you can come up with different colors. So that's just what I did there. All right, opacity. Opacity is how clear it is. Like if I wanted to do that and make it kind of transparent, I could, but I wouldn't be able to see it very well. All right, so there you go. That's Bill Smith, track and field's newest star. Now, one thing to note, too, when you're doing cover lines, let's look at the real deal for a second. Notice how on the left side of the screen, everything's aligned to the left, and when you're on the right side of the screen, well, it's not aligned to the right, but a lot of times it is. This one, they did it a little differently, aligning everything together, but in a lot of magazines, you'll see if it's on the left, it's aligned to the left, on the right, it's aligned to the right. So just pay attention to your professional mag cover that you're using as a template basically, and do that. So if I click this, let's do this. We'll do that, and we'll change this to right. Let's see what that's going to look like. Okay, and by the way, I'm using when I just click on it, you probably hear the keyboard clicking. I'm using my keys, my arrows, left, right, up, down. You don't want it right on top of it, but you don't want it too small either. Let's make that a little bigger. Let's see what this, Bill Smith. That's probably a little too small. And I'm picking on it right now. Let's go 40. There we go. All right. So that looks good. If you wanted to do centered, you could do centered on this one. It just it depends on what you see in your real magazine cover. So you notice that these are all align to the left, so that works good too. All right, so let's talk cover lines. Let's zoom in here and take a look. So this plus sign, what I did to make that, I wouldn't consider that a cover line necessarily, but it's something you want to put in there if it has it. My cover line was actually, or my little plus sign was right there. Making it is super simple. You just go ahead and click here, make a line. Well, shoot, there's a line. And then you just change the color of the line. How hard is that? I mean, it's super simple. Change that. And then what I did was I copied it, Control-C, Control-V. And then this is a rotation tool. If I rotate it, you see it gives me degrees. If I hold down Shift, it's going to go at 45-degree increments. So I held down Shift to do that. And then I move it around, and there you go. Group it together. Whoops, don't want to group it together with that. Group it, right-click, group, and now it's one piece, and there you go. Bye-bye. All right, last piece of the puzzle here for this video is going to be this part. I made some lines here to separate this text, and I made this bold. I used, which font did I use? I don't even remember. But you want to make the font look good. You want it to be nice and bold. I put these lines in here. I put this, pay close attention to this. Now look at this. This is not how to type cover text. See, we have bad capitalization. We are not writing an English paper. Notice how much less bold this text is compared in where it's way too much text. You're not writing a paper here. If you look at magazine covers, you are looking at short phrases, sentences, questions like this that are getting you, the reader, to look inside. It's like, oh, that looks like an interesting article. That's exactly what's going on here. All right, so again, cover lines are the difference between a really, really good professional look to a cover and something that just doesn't look very good. If I hit preview here, it should get me a look at what it's going to look like printed, and that looks pretty darn good. Now, one thing I would say is I probably want this guy over more to the left, so if I hit escape, I would probably say, oops, of course I have to unlock it first. Let's try that again. I'm going to bring this guy more left and preview it. Let's see what it looks like. Looking pretty sweet, okay? Does it look like the real thing? Getting pretty close to it. But, you know, there's lots of little things that we can look at. All right, but that is how you do cover lines. I know this is a pretty long video, but it gives you a lot of information, and it will get you great results.